And we are live. What's up, fam? This is Anthony Dream Johnson, president of the Manosphere, CEO and co-founder of the Redman Group, CEO of 21 Studios, and founder of the 21 Convention and 21 University and the 22 Convention. Here today with a special episode of the Redman Group on Friday, because the holiday's tomorrow, 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, everybody. Episode 110, Surviving Amerigeddon, obviously a play on Armageddon. Before I bring on today's guest for the show, special guest, I want to announce that we are, of course, sponsored by the 21 Convention. Tickets coming soon for the main event. They're already on sale for 22 Convention, to 21 Summit, larger event, and the 21 Convention Patriarch Edition, all coming to Orlando, Florida. Yes, in the middle of this super crazy year. That'll be October 1st to 4th in Orlando, Florida. Learn more at the21convention.org. That's .org, not .com. And finally, for the 4th of July, there's a 50% off flash sale for 21 University at 21university.com. You can join on a free 1-month trial to 21 University, Positive Media for Men. All of our videos from the Redman Group, 21 Convention speeches, all that stuff is there early before they go on YouTube. It's all really cool. And you get half off your first month or your first year payment, whichever model you choose, whatever plan, using coupon code LiveFreeOrDie. Again, that's coupon code LiveFreeOrDie. Flash sale ends this Sunday night, so 4th of July weekend. Without further ado, please let me welcome today's guest to the show, T-Dawg.
Hello, hello.
What's up, T-Dawg? Doing good, man.
Right on.
Let me set up the background here real quick on the show. 1 second. And boom. All right, so T-Dawg is a fan of the show. He's been watching for quite a while. I've known him for over a year now. Great dude. And he's actually an attendee of the convention a couple times over as well, so he's familiar with what we do, familiar with the show and the speakers and the content and all that. He's also an expert on surviving, survivalism, prepping, and family and home defense, self-defense too. So T-Dawg, a little bit more about you. Can you introduce a little bit more about what you do to the show and your history?
Sure. So obviously the first rule of prepping is not to admit that you're a prepper, which is why I'm not using my real name or my photo here, because I don't need anyone knowing what I do or what I'm prepared to do. But basically, I've been doing this with corporations, with some small government entities, with local governments, and even some federal government agencies. I've been doing emergency planning for them since 2003.
Damn.
So I have quite a bit of experience. I actually went to school for it. I have two master's degrees in emergency planning. In addition to, I was working on a PhD, all but dissertation, decided to quit on that one because the counterterrorism business just doesn't pay. So, no sense going forward. I own my own consulting firm, and I actually sold it in 2014. And since then, all I've been doing is, semi-retired. And right now what I'm doing is I'm working for another consulting firm. And I work with municipalities and counties in one of the most populated states in the nation.
And actually helping them get prepared for hurricanes and disasters and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with COVID, I became a coronavirus expert overnight. I was actually on the governor's reopening committee as one of their experts. So I actually had to go up to the Capitol and sit with that. That was before they had the easy coronavirus testing. So I had to get the Q-tip up my nose, which sucked for that, but it's a lot easier now. But yeah, one of the things I do now is obviously emergency planning. I do a lot of continuity planning in terms of how city and county governments continue to operate their services after an event. And one of the things I've been doing a lot of is actually what they call red teaming, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term or not. But
I'm not. What does that mean?
So red teaming is basically you're trying to poke holes in plans. So if they have 4th of July traditionally is a big massive events for municipalities where they have their fireworks shows. Obviously, everything's canceled this year, but what we would do is we'd work with law enforcement. We would look at their emergency plans and basically try to figure out all the gaps and all the holes that exist that people could take advantage of, whether it's terrorists or what's more likely nowadays, homegrown terrorists. But that was the type of thing we do. It's actually one of my favorite things because you can be evil. You can think evil. You can think how to kill people. That's the purpose. Because if I can think of it, other people can think of it as well.
Yeah, someone's got to do it ahead of time. Otherwise, you're not prepped for it.
Absolutely.
You can't plan for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So before we get more into the show, give different things we're going to go into and how guys can get prepared just to take care of themselves, take care of the future. Be responsible, self-responsible as men. But obviously, one of the reasons I chose to do this show, we've been talking about it for a few weeks, is this whole year has been nuts. Not just COVID, obviously, and then the government responses, but the protests, the riots, the looting, the shooting. It's getting wild out there. It's pretty obvious at this point. My question to pose to you to kind of preamble, as we go through the show is obviously at this point, civil war is an issue that's been talked about for a while. Even the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, was talking about it and advocating for it, wildly enough, back in like 2018. And more recently, this is a topic you see all over the alt news, mainstream news. Something keeps popping up. I even saw it on Bloomberg today, interestingly enough. Bloomberg quick take or some bullshit.
Sure.
But the chance of another American Civil War, it's been over 150 years since we had one. The chance obviously is not zero, nor is it 100%. So talk to me about what your thoughts are on the potential that, just say in the next 6 to 12 months, never mind, the next 100 years, who knows, but for the immediate future of Americans and young men, what is your view on that, and what is your opinion on the chance of it?
Okay, well, I'm not 100% sure of the chance of a civil war, but civil unrest is 100% chance. I think we're going to continue going on to the election season with an escalation of violence. Those on the left, I guess you would call it, are clear in their intentions. And what really worries me is the eventual response that's going to happen from the people on the other side. And knowing what I know about those people, because I'm one of them. But there is it's going to be an unproportional response, and I don't think these people really know what they're in for. And honestly, the people on the ground who are doing it, they're just useful idiots in the grand scheme of things. The planners of the riots, of the civil unrest, I think they're actually banking on it. I think they want
brick. We call them the brick people because they put pallets of bricks everywhere mysteriously.
Yeah, of course. They're planning on having a response. They like to see when a patriot has a concealed weapons permit and then ends up shooting more people, because it just perpetuates the violence on both sides. They want to see that eventual escalation.
Well, it gives ammo to fake news to play it and spin it a certain way. So it's like it's fuel to this bullshit fire they keep creating, is how I see it.
Yeah, of course, exactly. So I think the people on the right, if you want to call it that, have shown amazing restraint at this point. Yep. And except in absolute necessity, they haven't went out and proactively decided to attack. They've kind of stayed back and observed.
Yep.
And I hope it stays that way. I really hope that the people in this country can wake up to see what's going on, and that there isn't this escalation. If it does escalate, going back to the Civil War, it's not going to be like the first Civil War. We're not going to see anything like that. It's going to be fourth generation warfare. There's going to be a lot of it
would be similar maybe to what we just saw, which was mass unrest throughout the country, but significantly more of that, like more widespread. It doesn't happen just in the cities. Maybe it spreads out in the suburbs a lot more. It's a lot more because there is no north. The north isn't invading the south. Even there's no way that's happening. There's this nonsense at this point. The country's is a lot bigger now. A lot of America didn't even exist back then in the 1800s, as we know today.
Exactly. And this war, if it is going to happen, is going to be an ideological war. It's not going to be a race war. I think it's going to be left versus right. We're very polarized as a nation. When you look at the election results from 2016 and every runoff since then, it's close. So there are many people in this country who are very staunch believers in leftism, and on the opposite side, there's many people who are staunch believers in conservatism, and that's the problem. They're no longer talking, and now they're resorting to physical violence.
Yep. Yeah, it's getting wild out there, man. So let's get into this. Yeah, allegedly. One more point too. You did mention though that the right has thrown, supposedly call it the right, whatever, right?
Sure.
Or however you want to frame it. But
you know what? It's 4th of July. Let's call them patriots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I've never, I voted for Trump in 2016. That's pretty obvious. I endorsed him, on the channel just before the election. Before that, I had never voted for a Republican in a general election. I was a Ron Pauler. So 12. So I'm not really a traditional conservative, nor was I a fan in any way of the establishment Republican thing. I was not before 2016 nor since. I don't like that crap. But I do like Trump, obviously. But I did want to say the labeling is interesting. Yeah, patriot. I consider myself an American above all, and that's most important to me. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, these things, freedom. But you did mention the restraint on the right, and I wanted to highlight that that's a lot different from. You can even go on Google. Guys can look this up. You can look up Jack Dorsey, the CEO, the founder of Twitter, and he was advocating for civil war in 2018, pretty brazenly on an interview with some major news website. And he's the epitome of this like leftist fucking commie hipster douchebag who just is just oblivious to how serious that is and what that actually looks like. if that actually the conflict breaks out and the patriots, the Americans we call them, start pushing back, and they don't have that restraint anymore. They just drop it. They just go. It's what do you call it? I mean, pull the trigger is a way to call it internally as well as physically, but
yeah,
it's dropping the restraint. It's and Scott Adams too. Some guy, an author I follow on Twitter.
Yeah, I follow Scott.
He's been saying that too. That the Americans who are armed, who conceal carry daily in Florida, there's over 1 million. I think at this point, it's a lot of fucking people. The
Sounds
restraint
like a great state.
It is a great state. I love it, man. Fuck yeah. But no, there has been a lot of restraint, and at some point that just stops, man. And people keep saying like the silent majority. It's like, I wonder if that silence is just fucking anger brewing because people are tired of getting treated like shit and vilified for defending themselves and stuff.
That's a very high likelihood, actually. There could come a breaking point in society where we're no longer going to be silent, and that's what worries me as an emergency planner is that eventual escalation of violence. Like right now with what's going on with those on the left, the law enforcement, although limited in their capacity, could handle this if given the chance. Yeah. If the right were to respond, there's no entity on this planet that's going to be able to hold them back. Yeah. So, law enforcement doesn't have the manpower or the capacity, and the majority of law enforcement are right. They're on the right side of the political spectrum. Not all of them, but if I had to guess, it's a good 65%.
Especially now with the left has been pretty openly and brazenly defund the police, abolish the police. I mean, dude, New York City just cut $1 billion out of their police budget. Yeah, in a way, I'm actually kind of happy that that's happening. It's gonna sound counterintuitive, but okay, this is it's a social experiment. We've watched California degrade into what they are for the last 30, 40 years, and the people of the rest of the country are starting to see what works and what doesn't work. So when the law enforcement is defunded and they abandon their posts, as you've seen, you get recklessness, you get anarchy, and not the way not Stefan Molyneux's version of anarchy. We get literal anarchy. They get blue flu, man. The blue flu's coming, dude. Yeah, we get violence and without any consequence. And where was I going with that? But anyways, so in a nutshell, I'm okay with the temporarily defunding of the police because I think it's waking people up. People are starting to see that it is not all sugar-coated situations when we have communism or socialism going in. Yeah. It's strongman rule. I think I actually sent you that link of that. What was that one guy's name? The warlord of Chaz or Chop. Oh, Raz. I think Raz was his name. Yeah, the rapper. I love that guy. Like, that guy was badass. He opens up his trunk, he pulls out a bunch of rifles, gives them to a bunch of soy boys. Yep. And you watch these guys, the look on their eyes when they got a rifle in their hands for the first time. You saw this power trip, and what's happened since. So the problem is there's guys out there, and you know who they are, that know how to handle these weapons very well. Yep. And in a situation, we could take out 200-300 people with one person in a blink of an eye, and that's what worries me. I'm actually, it's literally the one thing that keeps me up at night. Yeah, it used to keep me up too, and now I'm just kind of getting past the point of caring. Like, I'm just so disgusted with a lot of this shit. Tearing down statues of Jefferson, Washington, all this stuff. It's just fucked, man. So, I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit callous, but yeah, I'm losing the compassion. I'm kind of becoming indifferent. You're coming politically black-pilled. Black-pilled, yeah. Well, the reason is too, is like, there's that old saying that, that what they say about the 1930s Germany, like, they come for your neighbors and they come for the other one and they come for you. Yep. And that's important to keep in mind for sure. But the reason you should be concerned about that, and the reason you would step in if, the government or whatever organization was rounding up your neighbors, the reason you would step in is because they weren't trying to destroy your life beforehand. They were either your neighbors and positive towards you, or maybe neutral and you didn't really know them. And the left, like Jack Dorsey and these Orwellian Marxists that try to censor everybody and silence everybody, they don't have my goodwill anymore. Like, if Twitter gets destroyed, or if Google gets broken up, or Facebook gets broken up by the DOJ, and it's kind of, these shenanigans where they're, maybe pushing the limits of executive power, I don't fucking care anymore. Like, I hate these companies with a passion because they're un-American, and they want to hurt me and my friends and people I care about. Stefan Molyneux getting banned off YouTube for frivolous bullshit is a perfect example of that. that's his life's work, man, in a nutshell. I mean, he has books and websites and other platforms, but YouTube was his home, and he built a lot of it on there. And he did that under certain expectations that were just endlessly shifted and manipulated and filled with bullshit. And he has no recourse. It's just all this fucking garbage. And it's because of his opinions. It's
Absolutely.
he's nothing criminal. I mean, he's not been charged with a crime. He's not been accused of a crime. He's not been convicted of a crime. He's just some fucking Canadian dude with ideas. And they had to shut him up and silence him, just like, all the way dating back to the Greeks and Socrates and stuff. It's fucked up, man.
100%. Well, Stefan was obviously very pivotal in the 2016 election. And I'm a good example of that. Before I was red pilled from the manosphere perspective, I was surfing around the internet, and I watched a video of his called "What Pisses Me Off About the Paris Attacks." And at that moment, that literally was the first video I watched of Stefan's. And at that moment, I started to consume his content and look for others like him. And that was a pivotal point in my life. And that's me. And I was pretty awake politically beforehand, but he really opened my eyes. Imagine the type of effect that he had across the spectrum.
Yep.
So I'm surprised I didn't take him out, months ago, if not even last year.
Same.
It's pretty obvious why it happened now, because we're entering election season.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to fare well for YouTube. I think when the DOJ investigates this, and I know Attorney General Barr has already mentioned that that's undergo. This is just one more example of abuse. So
yeah, he wasn't even at their community strike guidelines. He was, I think, in the clear. He had all three set up, good to go.
Yeah,
and just nuked, man. It's fucked. But anyway, let's get into more practical stuff for today. We could go by this all day long, and maybe we should sometime. So you have a kind of presentation when you go through, but also you sent me this very cool PDF, and I will actually be sending this out to guys in the newsletter for free. This PDF that you sent us, I appreciate that.
Yep.
It's like
so that's there's 21 basically events. What this is, it's called the Family Survival Guide. I created this for a company that I owned a couple of years ago. It unfortunately didn't stick. I tried it for a year, couldn't make a profit, but it was basically a tactical school that we did force on force training for civilians, but we also did preparation classes as well. So this was one of the lead magnets that we used for that website. So it's pretty good. It's all up to date still, with exception of the pandemic section. There's I could have updated it with COVID, but I didn't want to take the time. You guys all know what COVID is, so I think I used Ebola as the example on this one. But this is something I want you to give out to all of the listeners, and the attendees of the 21, because there's some good information in here. It goes over what to do in the first 5 minutes, because the first 5 minutes of your decision making after any event is the most important time. So, the first 5 minutes is key. Once you figure out what you're going to do, then you roll out your plans and you have all your preps in place and you continue on. So use this as a starting point. If you don't have preparation plans, go ahead and use this. If you already are a prepper, or whatever you want to call yourself, a survivalist, then use this and see if there's any gaps.
I like those volcano in here.
Yeah, this is for everybody. So
yeah, not just Florida. Yeah, this is cool. I like how it's specific per each example. It's a good way to start. Yep. I've been into this stuff, low key in the background for about 10 years now. I got into prepping, and just because living in Florida, we have so many fucking hurricanes, and after seeing Katrina go down in 2005 or whatever, I'm like, yeah, that could, that could happen in Florida. Maybe not the exact same way, but because of the locks and the dams and shit or whatever. But no, shit can hit the fan. Power can go out for weeks at a time, and it has in Florida after hurricanes.
And I think that's one of the problems with prepping. There's kind of a negative connotation with preppers. Whether it's social media, they portray us as if we're tinfoil hat kind of crazies. And, I have a hat out of tinfoil. It works really well. But, that's not what it's about. It's not about having bunkers. It's not about having a tinfoil hat. It's not about having this massive armory, although I would approve if you have one. But, for the most part, it's simply, as you said, it's about preparing for what we can expect. And, what could we have in our area? So you're in Florida. Hurricanes, tornadoes.
Well, dude, straight up, I've talked to you about this, and what we all just went through with the COVID stuff. Fuck the riots that came later. The minute that shit happened, and the grocery stores ran out of stuff, the toilet paper was gone, everything was gone. The food was still some food, but even that was getting low. The water was gone. I was already stocked up before any of that shit happened.
Absolutely.
Because I was prepped for hurricanes. Now I wasn't like Armageddon prepped. I had food for about a month. I had water for like 2 weeks. I had even more beyond that with decontamination tablets and like some very basic stuff. But even just on and toilet paper, I had like 50 rolls in my garage that I kept, in good condition that I bought a long time ago, cheap, Costco or something. So I had zero problems any of this shit just because I was prepped for a hurricane. Never mind the fucking, I wasn't like, oh man, there's gonna be like COVID-19 shit and the whole world's gonna end in like 8 months.
Yeah.
No, I'm just always prepped with beef jerky and food and like sardines and like all this stuff and rice.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not about zombie apocalypses or
Yeah.
a solar flare which takes out the grid. It's about literally just having the stuff that you need for your family to get your family past at a particular emergency.
And it transcends a lot of it, though, is cross compatible, whether it's a hurricane going and the power going out for fucking 3 weeks and people go nuts, or it's a fucking COVID bullshit and the country shuts down for a month or whatever. So it's like, it's super useful living in almost any part of the United States because natural disasters happen basically everywhere, right?
Everywhere in the world. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's parts of the United States that are more prone to certain ones. Obviously, Florida or along the East Coast is hurricane. Yep. But we have Tornado Alley right up the center of the country. You go across to California and to the West Coast. There is earthquakes, and if you go further north, there's volcanoes. So
fires too, man. The forest fires break.
Forest fires, brutal. Yep, absolutely. And we don't even have to talk about large scale disasters. We could be discussing something as simple as your home burning down. Do you have the preps to survive after your home burns down, or you get, or even if you have a car crash or you're stranded somewhere? So prepping is a lot more than the big things. It's how to actually manage your day-to-day operations when something bad happens. When shit hits the fan, what do you do?
Yeah, the shit hit the fan. I remember getting into the survival community back then. It was very similar to the Manosphere. I found it was really funny. They had all the same forums, they had a very similar lingo kind of community thing going on. There's a hierarchy of moderators and shit. I would meet guys out at like shooting ranges and stuff. They'd kind of walk me through the ropes. Guys who are professional, like NRA certified instructors of firearms and stuff. They're super helpful for free. I was amazed at the positivity and camaraderie in that community because it was so different from the contrast that they get portrayed in the media as these crazies. A lot of them are just like good dudes that just like they're just kind of worried about a hurricane or shit hitting the fan or riot.
Don't get me wrong, there are crazies. There's crazies everywhere.
Of course.
Yeah. Which is why you never talk about prepping. Yeah. Because you don't want it to be a target.
Yeah, you don't want people robbing your house for shit. Yeah.
Exactly. So you mentioned that you had enough preps in your home to last you at least 2 weeks, basically, because water's obviously key.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say the majority of the people who live in North America couldn't last 2 days. 2 days without going to a grocery store, whether it's something. So for me,
72 hours is also kind of the guideline too. It's 72 hours without food, people just go nuts, right?
Of course, yeah. And that whole 72 hours thing is the time that it's going to take for the government to assist. That's bullshit. We can't rely on the government for anything. So if your preparation plans is to have enough food to last until FEMA comes in, your plan is a big failure at that point.
Yeah.
So prepping is about giving you peace of mind. It's not about prepping for zombies. It's about giving you and your family peace of mind. And I'll tell you what, I started to really get involved in this from a personal perspective after I had a family. Once that first child is born, you start to realize that your role is as a protector is much more than just protecting yourself.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it, man. I know you have a whole we got that whole document we can get into. This is actually a PDF we can send you guys. It's a final thing. If you guys want this PDF and you should get it, it's free thanks to T-Dawg here. Just go to 21studios.com and enter your email in the newsletter thing, and then you can get it. And I'll send it out to that email list there about a week from now, not even a couple days, like maybe next, it's coming Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. So sign up and link in the description for you guys who want to get it. Yeah.
All right, good. So the goal that I wanted to present today is, first of all, it's this is a starting point. I know there's a lot of people out there, the guys who are survivalists that can live in the woods by themselves and skin animals and stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about here. I want to look at the practical side of prepping that the majority of Americans will be able to do.
And will benefit massively from really quick, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I want to go for low-hanging fruit. I know a lot of people out there are very prepared, but a lot of them aren't. I also don't want to get into specifics of gear or tools or which solar generator is the best. There are plenty of content creators out there in the YouTube world. If you want to get specifics, feel free to look that kind of stuff up. If you do have a specific question, do we have a live chat going on?
There's a live chat, yeah. So
okay,
if they have questions, we can pop them up on the screen.
Yeah, pop them up. I'll do my best to answer them, but I don't really want to get into endorsing a specific brand of knife or hatchet or none of that stuff, right? But you should have a knife and a hatchet, but I'm not going to tell you what kind to get.
Yeah.
So that's
let's
basically.
Start on some. I like this though. Let's start on some basics because most guys are not. They're not prepped, man. You're saying, most people, even guys in the manosphere, they're not prepped. They don't have more than a couple days of food and water and stuff. That's just the average American.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been conditioned that way. 100 years ago, that would have not been the case. My grandparents literally could live their entire lives without having any grocery store because they lived on a farm. They had their own garden. They pickled their vegetables. So they were around. They had a cellar. It was badass. They made their own wine. I remember my first glass of wine when I was like 18 months old. It was a family tradition that the grandfather would give everybody a taste of this. It was choke cherry. It was the most disgusting thing ever.
Jesus.
Those of you from the Midwest know what choke cherry.
I could tell by the name.
Yeah, it was awesome. But
my grandpa was the same way though. He was famous in the family for making wine that everybody loved. Like when he died, they missed him. He was dead, but they were also like, "Fuck, the wine's gone."
Let me tell you about this man. So this man died about 5 years ago. He died at 96 years old.
Damn.
He saved a bottle of whiskey for like 60 years. And in his will, I want to talk about alpha male. In his will, it was his orders to basically all of the men, the grandchildren and the sons of his family. And actually at that point, there was great grandchildren. We were to share this bottle of wine and do a toast to him at his gravesite.
Damn.
So it was the most amazing thing. It was cold as fuck though. Up in the prairies, and it was if I recall, I think it was January, but it was just it was an amazing thing to see a man plan 60 years in advance for his own death. But anyways, let me go back to this. So the first thing is, if you're thinking you're going to be some kind of lone wolf and that you're gonna hold off a mob of 500 BLM protesters wearing a pink.
Pink pussy hat?
Wearing a pink polo with khakis and your wife standing next to you with like
that guy. Yeah, the mansion dude.
That could have went really bad, really fast. All right. Yeah. So, that could have went one or two ways. If he were to shoot several rounds into the crowd, chances are the fight or flight would have kicked in. Most people would have ran, but there is the odd chance that they would have ran towards him and the fight instinct kicked in. So lone wolf is a myth. If you're planning on having your prep plans, you and your family alone, you're going to have a very hard time, especially for an extended period of time. So what I would recommend anyone as a starting point is to get with like-minded people, get with people that have that similar beliefs of the world, whether it's political or religious beliefs of the world, and get together and create a formal group. Something formal. You don't want to have anything willy-nilly where it's like, yeah, if something happens, we'll just get together. No, you need to have something formal, have written bylaws, have a leadership. There you go. Have a leadership structure, and then practice together. Get your families to work together, go camping together, go fishing, go hunting. Have monthly or quarterly meetings where you actually go over your preps and hold each other accountable. So if your group's minimum food is 6 months worth of food per individual, hold each other accountable for those. But there's no possible way that you can hold off any kind of long-term event with just you and your family. Just imagine if you were under siege and you have to keep guard on your home or your property for an extended period of time. You just can't do it. You need to have more. So
one other alternative to this too, though, is have a bug out plan, right? Bug out to somewhere that you think that is more defensible for long term like that.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to bug out here shortly. But yeah, even then, bugging out with a group of people in a convoy is a lot safer than bugging out as an individual.
Yeah.
You saw what's going on in when they shut down the interstates and they block off interstates.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, I would just run through them. You don't have the opportunity to run through them because they're a mile up, have blocked the semi truck. And at that point, all traffic just stops behind. Now you're a sitting target. So even if you were the first or weren't the first vehicle, you're still stuck in traffic. And that's very common when it comes to bugging out.
No one wants to play Grand Theft Auto anyway in real life. Like you could go to jail, obviously, long term.
Well, the use of force in most states is the same the same legal standard as having to shoot somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when can you shoot somebody? Most states have use of force, like carjacking, or what they call a forcible felony. So,
Yeah.
if someone's trying to carjack you, you could run their ass down with your vehicle, and the vehicle is a great tool for those type of situations. But anyways, so the first thing you got to do before we get into running down people on the interstate is to identify your threats. What are the threats in your specific area? So right now, obviously, what we've been chatting about is societal collapse, leftist riots, whatever you want to call them, and I think that's pretty high up on my list and my group's list. We're keeping an eye on that.
Yeah,
but a close number 2 is natural disasters. So we're heading into the summer season. Hurricanes are well, we've already had, I think, 3 named storms this year already, which is above average for this time of the year.
Yep.
So, hurricanes, wildfires, this type of stuff is obviously a close second for me.
We saw a huge tornado in Orlando too recently, like massive. You see that shit? It's crazy.
I did actually see that.
It's like out of a movie, man.
Yeah, I was watching on Twitter and I saw a bunch of people posting the photos. So,
yeah,
I'm not an expert in tornadoes in Florida, but I do know that there's more tornadoes in Florida than any other part of the country, but they're small. So they're not like the size that you get up in Kansas.
Yeah.
A lot of them are actually over water, so they don't even really get counted. But the weather conditions in Florida make it prime for tornadoes for sure.
Got it.
All right. So, then we go down the list and you keep going. You could have, the viral outbreak has always been an issue. Now, whether you believe this is a real thing or it's not a real thing, it's viruses are viruses. They have the potential to mutate, and they do every year. So viral outbreaks on my list. So after viral outbreaks, I actually have this conventional war and or martial law. So no matter who the president is, there's always that situation where I fear, and I always have feared, that they would misuse their political power and have the military enact martial law. So I guess this is called Amerigeddon. I think that's actually the title. That's
the title of the episode. Yeah,
that's the title of the episode. It was actually a movie. I think Alex Jones was involved a few years ago, and that's what it was about. It was about the military going door to door and confiscating weapons. Yeah. And I wouldn't put it past anyone in power.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of law enforcement friends, and I ask them this question all the time. And I'm like, what would you guys do if given the order to go door to door to confiscate weapons? And they always say, I wouldn't do it. But here's the situation. They're not going to be given an order to go door to door. They're going to be given an order to go in and get this crazy guy who's been threatening somebody with his weapons. All right. Yeah. So they're going to treat them as individuals. And for them, it's just a mission. It's just another bad guy they're taking off the street. What they don't know is I'm not a bad guy. You're not a bad guy. We're just patriots. So they're going to go in, and it's going to take, I don't know how many of these events are they going to take until these police officers wake up?
There's always going to be as well a section of law enforcement, even if it's 80% won't do it and 20% do, that's still 20% of police force willing to carry that shit out. That's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good 200,000 people probably.
Yeah, and same for the military. Even if the vast majority of guys in the military would refuse that kind of order, if you still have 10, 20%, that's a sizable chunk willing to do horrible stuff. And I don't like admitting that, but it's got to be more than zero that would carry out an order like that. So
here's the thing about the military that a lot of people don't understand. Most of them are patriots. Most of them would never do that intentionally, but these guys love a mission. They want the action. They want to execute the mission. And it really does, it causes me some grief knowing that these guys would do whatever it takes to carry out that mission, even though that may mean disarming patriots.
Yeah.
I guess this may be conspiracy theories when you see the Delta Force in operation stateside doing things against patriots. There was, the whole Waco situation. If you recall what happened in Waco, the rumor is that Delta Force played an operation in that. So the fact that we have tier 1 special forces operators going out and doing what they do best, which is not designed to be going against American citizens, it's a scary situation.
What does tier 1 special forces mean? There's tiers to special forces like Navy SEALs, Green Beret.
So basically the tier 1 would be SEAL Team 6 and then Delta. In the Army. So those would be the tier 1. And then anyone below that would be, the other tiers. They're all badass, but those two units specifically have a lot of counterterrorism type jobs. So
Okay.
All right, so then we got biological, chemical, nuclear, EMPs or solar flares. Solar flares happen all the time, and it's only a matter of time until it creates enough of an electromagnetic pulse where we're going to have issues with components on the planet. So, but that's my list, and of course your list would be completely different depending on the area. So if you're up in Washington State, you may have volcanoes as an issue. I don't have any issues with volcanoes where I'm at.
Yeah, not that we know of.
All right.
Jesus.
So once you've identified your potential threats, the next step is to develop plans for those threats. And again, that PDF document that I provided, this is a good starting point. There's 21 issues, 21 type situations, earthquakes, floods, looting, forced evacuations, all that kind of stuff is in there. This is a good starting point. But come up with real specific plans of what you're going to do for each one of these events. And when I say specific, I mean literally specific. What are you going to do? What are the type of equipment you're going to need? How do you and your family and your group muster? How do you communicate? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's involved? So it's the basic questions: who, what, where, when, why.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, this is not stuff that you want to be figuring out on the fly when the tornado is in your backyard. This is not something on the fly that you need to figure out after there is riots in your neighborhood. This is also
you want to be able to execute on it, immediately. Yeah,
absolutely. Which is actually the next step, which is monitoring events. So step 3 in your whole preparation plan is to monitor what's going on in the world. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of us, me included, we kind of live in a sphere of like-minded individuals. You got to get out of your echo chamber. You got to go on Twitter. You got to follow dude. I don't want to get too involved, but I am a fully fledged member of Antifa, according to my social media. So I have an alter ego where I am in on all of this kind of stuff, and I listen to their chatter and I look what's going on.
Got it.
All right. Not that I believe in anything they're nonsense that they're doing, but it's good to know what their mindset is. So
it's good to keep an eye on them. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
law enforcement does this too. I know they keep tabs on these people by just playing into it.
Yeah. So before they were deemed as a terrorist, they were deemed as a gang. So most of the units, the gang units, were involved in keeping an eye on that.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the wimpiest gang on the planet, basically. So a gang of soy and processed.
The Crips and the Bloods and the Tifas. The Tifa, yeah.
Exactly. Rather than a red or a blue bandana, it's a rainbow bandana.
Yep. There you go.
But as wimpy as they are, when they are in mass, they are potentially dangerous. So we don't want to play that down. So follow the mainstream media. I know a lot of us have disconnected from mainstream media, but these guys will project. They'll project what's going on, sometimes days or weeks in advance. Follow social media, obviously, and then when you're out and about, situational awareness. Simple self-defense. Keep your head on a swivel. If you're familiar with I think it was Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper. He had this color code system where you should be kind of operating in a yellow or an orange type situation. White is basically oblivious. You never want to be in a white as a person. I was in a white this afternoon for about 30 seconds, but other than that, during that one specific task, that everything else you should be.
Some of our speakers at 21 Convention have actually discussed this and laid this out in the speeches at 21. Specifically guys who are into firearms instructing and edge weapons and stuff like that.
Sure.
So yeah, it's yellow, orange, red, right?
Yep.
And you're never oblivious though.
So you don't want to be in white, which is basically oblivious to the world, and you don't want to be in black, which is in a panic mode. You want to be under control. So with that said, I don't operate in red all the time. I don't walk around paranoid. You've seen me out and about. I'm not one of those guys. But I am always just looking before I walk into a convenience store. I look up and I see what's going around. So just from a situational awareness perspective, just keep an eye on the world. Your world right around you. Some
of the things their previous speakers recommended, so run these by you, see what you think. But whenever you walk into a building, they taught me and they taught the attendees. First of all, you check people. Well, this isn't the order they recommended, but you watch people. You check for exits. You find out where all the exits are immediately in the building. Usually they're marked by the red signs, right? Exit, exit, exit. Where are the exits? Because that tells you where people can come from. You check people in the store, wherever you're around. You check hands. Always watch hands. And I've seen martial arts guys say this, firearms guys. It's always about, I guess, cops too, right? Oh, they're always watching your hands because you can't do anything with your feet. You can't do anything. Your arms are useless without your hands, pretty much. The eyes and the head can be misleading, but the hands will tell you a lot. And if you can't see them, there could be a big problem there.
100%.
Is that so?
Absolutely.
So exits, people, and hands.
Yep. Absolutely.
Am I missing anything or?
No, I think from a situational awareness perspective, I think you hit it right on the head.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so now the next thing is, so if you just want to recap the steps, so everyone's kind of following with me. So the first one is identify the threats that you have in your specific area. Once you have that done, identify plans that you would use for those specific threats. All right, then you're going to monitor the events in the world around you. The fourth step is to establish some kind of readiness levels with your group. Okay, so your survival group, your prep group, whatever you want to call them. Literally, my team's is called the group. We're not fancy.
My team is called T-Dawg.
See, that's why you never tell anybody you're a prepper, because then everybody wants to come and take your shit. So, so we have.
I got my own shit. I'll bring my own shit, dude. I got it.
Oh, okay. Then I'll take it. That's the problem, right? All right. So the step 4 is establishing readiness levels. So basically, the way we have it with our group and the way it's worked out well is there's four levels. The first is guarded. The second is advisory. And we have high alert. And then we have activation of the group. Okay, so a good example of what's going on right now with society. The riots were starting, was that a couple weeks ago? At that point, when the riots start, you elevate up into a guard level. All right, so the group is activated. We communicate with an encrypted system. WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp group. So you send a message saying, "Hey, everybody watching this." You basically just elevate your guard. The minute that the riots start to continue, property damage is starting to occur. We elevate up higher. Okay, and that would be the next step. Then once they start to spread, and this is kind of where we're at right now. They're spreading. There's very few attempts to actually quash the riots around the state. So I'm operating with my group in a high alert situation.
Got it.
Okay. And then the last part, obviously, is the group activated. So if shit were to hit the fan and the police were not able to handle it, my group and I would actually mobilize. We would go to our primary location, our meeting spot, and at that point, we would kick in the plans.
Yeah. Yeah, an example of that even the other day in what was it, Lake County, Florida, not too far from here. There's a sheriff who's talking about something similar. It wouldn't be group activated. It's more specific to what you're saying, but he's talking about deputizing every gun owner in the county.
Yeah,
every law, which is I think a much larger scale of what you're saying here, but it's the same thing. It's like if shit hits the fan and you need to take care of it, that's actually the sheriff's job too. In my understanding, it's the sheriff's job to basically not only deputize if they need to, but organize a militia for the county.
Yeah, the sheriffs are an elected official, so they have a lot of autonomy over, let's say, the chief of police for a city police agency.
Yeah.
So they can do stuff like that, whereas most city agencies wouldn't be able to do that. They have accreditation standards and all this kind of stuff that they have to meet. Yeah. But the sheriff, that's their purview. If they want to deputize every citizen in the population, they could. I'm not sure how that would work, in the grand scheme of things. And I'm not sure if being a police officer offers any additional protection as the average armed citizen in terms of use of force.
Got it.
So I don't know what the benefit is, but other than maybe a little bit of deterrent for those people that are causing problems.
Yeah.
All right. So 3 plans. 3 plans that I think everyone should have. The first one is a get home plan. GHP. Okay. Get home plan. You need to figure out how you're going to get home. If you travel lots, if you're on the road, your family is relying on you, whether you have children, whether you have a wife or 5 or 6 girlfriends at home, whatever you have going on in your situation, these people rely on you, you rely on them. So we have to make sure we get back to them. That's the first thing. The second thing you need to do is determine if you're going to stay home, where this is basically where most people are at right now, I would say, in society. They're staying home, they're keeping an eye on what's going on, but that's the bug-in plan, or what I like to refer as a home security plan, because it's, we're not really bugging in, we're just maintaining the security of our own place. And then the last one, obviously, is the bug out plan. And a lot of preppers they want to bug out. They want to go into the woods. If you've ever went camping for longer than 2 days, that's going to suck shit. You don't want to be living in the woods. It is a miserable time, especially in certain parts of the country during certain parts of the year. I couldn't imagine being in Illinois having to deal with bugging out in the middle of winter into the woods. Like that, how long is that going to last? Or down in Florida, for example, where the mosquitoes now would eat you alive in 10 minutes. So.
And the heat and the rain and the humidity and the sun and the weather. Yeah, it's
miserable.
rough.
So, bugging out is a last resort. And too many prepper type people are really focused on the whole bug out plan, which you're missing.
Well, but bug out can also mean not just the woods. It can mean a different location of your state or nearby state that has, but that I have a plan like this. It's not, I'm not bugging out to the woods.
Yeah,
I'm bugging out to the beach is where I'm going. Because
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. I have places I can go to. I have options actually, but there's a favorite I have, and that's that I've actually established that plan.
Yep.
Because I think it's a better location to Orlando. If the riots kick off here, I don't think it's particularly likely. It's not like Tampa, Miami, but it could happen. And if it really got super nuts, I would have at least the option of bugging out and doing it in a certain timeline. Obviously, if you wait too late, you're fucked. But it's an option anyway I have, and it's something I've given serious thought to. I gave it more serious thought. I had it in my mind before the pandemic, and then the minute that shit hit the fan, I was like, okay, let me establish this and get ready for it immediately. I never had to do it, not even close, but especially as the riots broke out, the protesting, I was like, all right, this is even more relevant now.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back, before you even worry about bugging out, you need to get home.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the key. That's where your preps are. That's where you have the majority of your tools. That's where you're going to meet your family. So you have to think about how you're going to get home and where you're going to meet your family if communication were to be cut off. I don't know about you, but last couple weeks ago, all the cell phone networks were down across the huge portion of Florida and Georgia and Alabama. And I don't know what the deal is with that. I have a sneaky suspicion there was something going on, but there was literally people who couldn't get home. They were stuck in the parking lot because they didn't have their GPS and they had no way of getting home. We become so reliant on our technology that we're basically, we're useless without having.
It's also the main way to communicate. A lot of people I don't even have a landline in my house, so it's the main way to communicate: internet or cell phone like that. I don't have like shortwave radios to contact people.
Well, we've got to communication here in a second, but so have designated meeting places with your family. Make sure you have enough gear in your vehicle that's going to last you, let's say, a couple days. All right. So if you had to hike for 2 days to get back to your family, worst case scenario, you have water, you have bug spray, you have sunscreen, you have some of the, you have maybe some weaponry, food. We can go pretty long without food, but definitely have some water in there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you need to have plans for what happens if there is a failed communication, if the internet is down, if there is an EMP and literally everything that we know no longer works. Where do we go? So, one is none and two is one. Go by the old saying. So you want to have some redundancy in here. Have a primary location where you're going to meet, and if for some reason that location is no longer usable, then have a secondary location.
Yeah.
Back
up.
Exactly. So and again, this all should be in writing and pre-established so everyone knows what they're doing. And you should be drilling this with your group. Home security plan. So this is the bug in. Obviously, I like to prefer to be at home. I'm more comfortable. I got my bed. I got my 60,000 rounds of 5.56.
Is that literal? Is that literally how much? No way you have the much ammo.
Oh, I do. I bought it.
That's crazy.
Dude, I bought it when it was 22 cents a round, and now it's like 45 cents a round. So it's basically...
That's amazing.
Yeah, of course. Don't even ask me how much 9mm I have. But
wow. I have 4 digits of ammo, but I know those guys like you that have literally 5 digits. That's amazing. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's an investment. I'm going to shoot it. I shoot probably 2,000 or 3,000 rounds a month, so I'm going to use it. And the moral of the story is I bought it when it's cheap.
Are there any states with limitations on ammo collect? Like, I don't think Florida has any like that.
I don't think so. I don't think there's any states that have limitations on the quantity. There are states that have limitations of the type. Like if you go to Jersey with a hollow point, you're fucked.
Oh, even in Florida, you can't use what is it? The fire shotgun shells, the ones that explode and shit.
Incinerate shells.
In Florida, you can't buy those apparently.
Oh, really? Never mind then.
It's just Florida. I mean, but that's like But how many people own incendiary shotgun shells? Like
it's useless.
It's super rare. It's for fun on YouTube, is what it's for.
Probably, yeah. Okay, so we got the advantages of you have the comfort, you have all your stuff in play, which is good. The disadvantages of bugging in, it's very hard to defend a home. Especially if you're in a urban area where there is a bunch of people who don't have shit, and they see you with all your shit, they're going to want to take it.
They want to know how much my millimeter you have.
A couple boxes.
Oh, got it. Yeah, same. A couple boxes. Wink. Yeah, I love 9.
Yeah, well, we'll get to this. We'll get to different calibers if you want, and we'll discuss the advantages of different calibers. But
what I did want to talk about at some point is, owning a firearm or multiple firearms, ideally, is a lot of guys don't. Some guys do, a lot of guys don't. Just some basic introduction to what should they even look for in purchasing the first 2 firearms they ever own.
Okay,
that'd be cool to get into at some point.
Let's come back to that, because I'm kind of on a thread here of protecting your home.
Got it.
All right, so we want to stay home if possible, but if you're going to stay home, be smart about it. Like, I'll tell you what, during there was a hurricane that happened with my family, and I went out and unplugged the landscape lighting when I had my home generator running, because I didn't want all my other neighbors to know that we were fully powered. Yep. Right. So it's like, you don't need to have the landscape lighting going while everyone else has been 2 weeks with no power. Yeah. Right. So be smart about it. Cover your windows, maintain low noise levels. People are less likely to target you if they don't even know you're there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you want to get in some of the tactics of defending a home with your group or your bug out location, if they come to you, you create sectors of fire, you identify any blind spots, you have plans to mitigate blind spots. There's a lot of technology available, force multipliers that you could use in your home security plan. There's motion sensors you could buy off Amazon for $10 that will send an alarm, and they're battery powered. So you can put them in the woods. If that's a blind spot, you put them in the woods, and when someone's walking through there, you'll hear the beep.
That's so. What are some? I like some of the basics here. So that sounds pretty cheap and pretty super cost effective. So how would people find that on Amazon? And are there any other very basic but effective tools like that they should use?
Yeah, it's good. Type in wireless motion sensors. They're used for garage doors and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And dogs. If you have a good dog who knows when and when not to bark, they can be a great asset too. And then of course the ultimate force multiplier is night vision. So I don't know about you, but I know a few people who have some night vision, and welcome to America. We can own the exact same stuff the military is using, and it is fun as hell. So absolutely, that's a great force multiplier. Because
how much would a decent pair of night vision goggles cost?
Well, if you just want to get like a PVS 14, which is like a Gen 2 or Gen 3. Now, and by the way, for those of you listening to this, Gen 2 is plenty good. When you get to Gen 3, what you're getting is more clarity. But Gen 2, the level of illumination that happens with Gen 2 is plenty good for any situation.
And are we talking like under $300 or
no. You're probably looking at $3,000 to $4,500.
Damn. Yeah, that'd be hard for a lot of guys.
It would be hard. And again, it's a toy for me. It's not something that I think I'm ever going to have to use. But,
and anything cheaper than that, like $500, would just be pretty useless.
No, you can actually buy some like Gen 1 night vision stuff for pretty inexpensive, $40, $50. But it's there's a lot of these like little handheld things. It's not something you're going to be able to mount to a helmet, or you're not going to be able to mount it to a firearm, for example. But you're a true libertarian.
1776, man. Right. Harry Snatch. Appreciate it, Harry Snatch.
I like that. Yeah. So when it comes down to night vision, if you really want to do it the right way, you get a proper helmet with the mounts and all that kind of stuff. $4,500 will get you pretty good stuff. If you go on eBay, you could probably find some used stuff. Yeah. In around $1,000. I have a Gen 2 PVS 7, which is it's a little old technology.
I'm just thinking about the guys watching who are new to this, and it's like they have to weigh that cost against
I wouldn't do night vision.
Food.
You're gonna do food before you do night vision. There's no
sure. Yeah.
If you want to get into the real tactical stuff, get yourself a rifle with a white light, a weapon mounted light, and you can fight at nighttime. So the night vision is fun, and if shit hits the fan, I'm gonna have a huge edge over anyone else.
I'm sure.
All right, so in your home, use force multipliers, use technology to your advantage, and then if you really think that things are going to be happening and there's going to be let's say mobs of people, at that point you start to stage your tools, start staging weapons, start staging ammunition, load all your magazines. Of course, if you have kids running around stuff, you got to keep that in consideration too, with safety and all. But Get ready for a fight, but also get ready for an evacuation. So if you're overran by a mob of 500 people, which could happen, those two guys that you pulled up there, the wife and the husband, if they were overran, they would have had no chance. They would have been.
There was like 100 people at least walking around, I think, in front of their house.
Actually, I heard it was higher. I heard it was between 300 and 500.
Damn, I didn't know that. Yeah, holy shit,
so,
that's a lot.
So dude has a 30-round mag, maybe.
Yep.
And she had, I don't know, like some Jimenez, like 22 caliber pistol with maybe 7 rounds in it.
And they both had like they had such bad like gun safety, and like they're muzzle sweeping each other. And it was bad.
You know what? I'm okay with that though, because they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They protected their home. Not everyone is an expert in firearms, and you don't need to be. Yeah. Clearly, this shows that you don't need to be a fire expert to save your ass.
Nobody got hurt. Nobody got shot. It's just even each other though. I was just like looking at her doing that with her. You know, it's just like, fuck, man, just basics, man, basics. Like, don't point a gun at somebody you're not ready to shoot them. Like
the memes that came out after that are the funniest shit. Someone superimposed that guy with that one picture of that Delta operator who was wearing during Desert Storm. He was wearing like that white golf shirt. They superimposed him in there. It's the funniest stuff. But anyway, so plan for an evacuation. So if your home were to be overrun, how do you get out? Where do you go from there? Have all of your supplies. No, let me back that. Have 75% of your supplies packed up and ready to go. Have them in your cars. Have them backed up into your garage or backed up against your home or whatever the case is, so that you can bug out fast. Now, the reason I say 75% is because you want to be redundant. So you know, 25% of your stuff you need to cache somewhere, hide it, put it somewhere where nobody else can find it. You know, I know a lot of people will literally dig holes in the woods, and they'll get waterproof containers, and they'll put a bunch of desiccant in there to absorb any moisture, and they'll drop ammo and cash and food and water. That is a good thing. Absolutely. You don't want to have
some John Wick shit, dude.
Yeah, well, think about it. Watch every one of these freaking Walking Dead episodes. Every time the governor or whoever the dude is that comes and overruns their camp, these guys end up bugging out and they have nothing.
Yeah.
You know, why don't they have stuff cached off-site somewhere? So, you know, The Walking Dead is a good example of what not to do in many cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get to the bug out plan.
Got it.
All right, so bugging out, first of all, is a last resort, and you only do that if you can't stay put. All right, so you don't want to bug out, because bugging out is inserting a lot of danger. You're going to deal with traffic jams. You're going to have fuel shortages. You're going to literally have these people blocking roads and rioting in the street. So it is as a last resort. And if you're going to do it, you need to have a place to go. If you don't have a place to go,
you're adding a lot of variables that you can't control.
You can't control. Yeah, exactly.
Even if you're prepped to the max, you can't plan for everything. So it's unknowns, right?
Dude, you could be driving in your car with 4 riflemen in your car, and some dude will shoot through the window and kill all of you, and you won't even see him, right?
Or you get a fucking nail in the tire and then you have to pull over. Like stupid shit can happen too. Not even dumb shit. You know, hit a pothole. Like,
you're a target. Once you're on the road, you become a target. So I always recommend, and the way we have our plan set up is we don't bug out unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bug out, by the way, it needs to be a flexible plan, and you need to have redundancies in place. And again, you have to have a rally point where you're going to meet if the first bug up location has been compromised. Okay, so again, what I don't want to see people do is, oh shit, I got to get packed up, and then immediately what you do is you start running around grabbing your stuff. You should have a list. It doesn't have to all be staged, but you should have a list of the things that you're going to need. All right, so you know, I don't load up an arsenal of stuff in a vehicle. I have one rifle. I have a specific rifle that I keep basically oiled and lubed and suppressed for use whenever needed. And that's my bug out rifle. All right. So it's a multi-purpose. Fit businessman. Right on, man. I like it.
Yeah. He's a Twitter follower too. Sweet.
Good.
Thanks for watching, man.
Okay. So vehicles, no ballistic protection. A round, the most minuscule round, a 22 caliber bullet would zip right through the sheet metal of your vehicle. So there's no protection from anything that's a real threat. Just keep that in mind.
In your car. And that's true for all cars pretty much past, 1980? Older cars that have protection, but only...
Maybe. So, yeah. maybe.
A lot of people don't
I wouldn't
understand. Let's clarify this, because a lot of people don't. That's a myth that your car is like bulletproof. It's not. The engine block will stop almost any round, but the rest of the car is fucking paper thin, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
the movies are all bullshit. You know, the car door is not going to stop a bullet. Super unlikely in a way that it will.
No, and actually, I have a funny story if you want me to tell it real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so back in the day, I was like 18. A couple of my friends went out to the woods. We were shooting with 22 rifles. My buddy's like, "Hey, I'm going to shoot my car." So we're like, "Yeah, that's cool, right? Shoot your car, right?"
Jesus.
Hyundai Pony, right? Remember the Hyundai Pony?
Yeah.
So he shot his car, but he didn't realize he had his window rolled down. So as it went through the sheet metal, he smashed the window inside his door.
Ooh.
And then the rest of the winter, the dude had no window.
Nice.
So yeah, it was pretty good. So they had no ballistic protection whatsoever. And again, with that said, is you need to think about your convoy security. Make sure that you have, a driver and someone who's going to be a defender, a rifleman in every vehicle. No, I don't have anything. I go incognito.
Incognito. No way to follow him. Only at Redman Group can you get T-Dawg intel. Yep.
All right. So then what you're going to want to do, so if you have a convoy of, let's say, 4 vehicles in your group, you're going to spread people and equipment out amongst those 4 vehicles so that if one vehicle was lost, you're able to basically continue on. If you had to ditch one vehicle for whatever reason, flat tire or something.
Christopher Columbus style, bro. The Nina Santa, whatever the fucking ship's names were. Sorry. It's been 20 years since, or 15, or more than that, since I learned that shit.
Yep.
Same thing though, yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I want to discuss is you should be in radio communication. So those cheap family style radios, they work for this perfectly. They can get the voice activated ones. If you want to do that, they're like $40 for 10 or something. They're like $10 a piece.
They're on Amazon. Yeah, there's a bunch of them you can get. Super cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And you can get, I think any brand will communicate with each other because it's the family radio frequency. Just I wouldn't use that for any super high security communications, but if you're saying, hey, I'm going to go up 2 blocks ahead, you guys hold back, that kind of stuff is fine. One more thing I do want to discuss about driving. If you're going to be driving anywhere, it's best to drive with night vision, with no lights on. All right. Yeah. Because then you're not visible. And if you can't drive at night using night vision, the second best is to drive during the day. Driving at night, those lights stand out like a beacon for everyone to see. So, driving at night is usually not a good idea unless you're under night vision.
Got it.
All right, so that's basically the whole prepper plan. Do you want to talk about gear and equipment, stuff you're going to need?
Yeah, just some basics. And I know firearms would be. I really think every American who's an adult and sane is sane should own a firearm. And the founders or advocates of this, Thomas Jefferson, all these guys. So for the guys who are watching who are American, they don't live in some commie country or whatever.
Canada,
right? What are some of the basics with selecting the first 2 or 3 firearms they're ever going to own? Handgun, shotgun, rifle. What should they buy? What should they look for within a reasonable budget that the average guy can afford?
Yeah,
on median income, 36,000 or whatever.
The first thing is you want redundancy. So one is none, 2 is 1. So keep that in mind. So if you're going to have a rifle, then have 2 rifles. And those 2 rifles should be similar. The AR-15 platform, for example, as long as it's a mil-spec rifle, you can interchange parts back and forth. So if a bolt carrier or something gets damaged or a gas tube gets loose or whatever, you just basically switch out the parts. I do have parts for all my rifles, but I operate under, if one breaks, I grab the second. Right.
Got it.
Also, you want to make sure you have checklists and you want to maintain all of your equipment. So whether it's battery operated or whether it is something that could spoil, have this stuff on a spreadsheet. Develop a spreadsheet of all of your gear and the locations of the gear, and anything that has a shelf life on it, you're going to want to check. So my medical kit, for example, I have antiseptics and all this kind of stuff. I also have a bunch of medications. We'll get to that coming up, but some of it expires. So I actually have that as a cue that.
Well, even a more basic one is this food, right? You have to cycle through it, otherwise it gets old. It's stale and expired and stuff.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If you're going like grocery store canned food avenue, for sure. If you go let's talk about food since that's on that topic. Yeah. So minimum 6 months worth of food per person. All right. So wow. you need to do your math, figure out how much food that you would need for a 6-month period. My group, we have a year. So all of us have a year per person. So when my
and that's using MREs or like what are you guys doing?
Okay, so I have a mixture of food, but it's survival food, and it's basically these 1 gallon tins full of rice and beans and different things. You can actually buy. I got it off Costco. It was actually pretty inexpensive overall. I think it was like $1,800 for 3 or 4 months worth of food.
Wow.
It's not bad. And it lasts 25, 30 years, I think. But I also have a lot of the camping stuff, the freeze-dried things.
Yeah.
And I use that, when I go camping and stuff like that. But that stuff lasts shelf life 25 years. But literally, I'm pretty sure if I go 30 years with it, it's going to be fine.
Dude, what I do is I just stock up on beef jerky, man. I find it when it gets, these stores locally have, because beef jerky lasts a long time, like a year or two. That's not a super long time. It's not 30 years, but for hurricane stuff. And dude, whenever it goes half off, like I'll get my favorite brand, the exact kind of shit I want. Tastes good, no MSG and disgusting crap in it. It's all gluten free. I'll buy like $100 worth, and now I have fucking $200 of beef jerky. And it's simple stuff. Sardines. Look for them to go on sale. Sardines are really good for you, and you can stock up on that. It's not perfect like rice and beans, but you can get those too. I stock up on all this stuff.
Hey, do me a favor. Text me your address so when shit hits a fan, I know where to get my beef jerky.
Yeah, I'll let you know, dude. I'll let you know. Yeah, man.
All right, so that's a short term. You need to have food to basically get you by in the short term, but I would recommend also looking into longer term things in terms of seeds. If you had to bug out when you were in a situation, seeds are really cheap. If you get heirloom seeds, you can buy 100,000 heirloom seeds for like pennies, basically.
Dude, I think they were banning the sale of these in California recently because people were buying and stocking up on them and shit because they're valuable.
I wonder why. Exactly.
Yeah,
now, the heirloom seeds, the purpose of the heirloom seed is they're not genetically modified. So you could harvest the seeds out of the fruit and then replant them the following year.
Got it.
All right. So that's why you want to have them. If you go to Walmart or whatever, or Lowe's, and you buy the seed package, you're going to get one crop and they'll never reproduce.
Damn. Yeah. That's good. And I didn't know that. That's good to know.
All right, so now we're going down to water. So you have food, you have 6 months worth of food, freeze dried, whatever your deal is, beef jerky. That's
what are your thoughts on obviously storing an enormous amount of water is hard. I mean, I have a couple weeks worth, but beyond that, I have little things. I have tablets.
You need filtration. You need the ability to create water when there isn't any. It's impossible to have enough water for you and your family because it takes roughly a gallon and a half of water per person per day.
Yeah,
under normal conditions.
Yep,
you're trucking through the woods. Or you have extremely hot, like there's no power, now your air conditioning's down, it's going to be worse. So what I would recommend is, 3 weeks worth of water to get you past the majority of localized disasters, and then have the capability to either filter or to somehow purify water. And you can use iodine. There's these tablets. There's all these
iodine. That's
filtration systems. In my get home bag in my car, I have the Life Straw, which me
too.
That's the brand of it. There's other ones that you buy at the camping store.
Dude, Life Straw is awesome. It's cheap. It's like $25, and it filters out like fucking almost everything. It's awesome.
Have you tried using it?
I have not. I have a better one that I've used. A Life.
Go find a pond, stick it in, and suck through it, and tell me how it is.
I'm gonna pass. I trust it enough to work. I mean, they use it on some disgusting shit like in Africa, man. Like,
oh no, it'll totally work. But it's to get a gallon and a half of water through that takes a lot of sucking.
Yeah, I have another one I use. It's more expensive. It's called a Lifesaver. It's about $140.
Yeah,
and I have used it a lot, and they're really cool. And it filters out everything, even fucking polio, like it super microscopic viruses filters it out. Which is amazing.
Yeah. Any virus is above 3 microns, so a HEPA filter would take that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to water, you need to have some way of making water out of something. Boiling it takes a whole lot of time, takes a whole lot of energy. So, and sometimes if you happen to be in a bug out situation, you just don't have the capability. So definitely have some kind of filtration system. The Life Straw brand actually has I think it's called a family filter, where you basically you take like a gallon of water and you put it in this hopper, and gravity filters it out, so you're no longer sucking through it. I actually have that too in a bag in my garage.
Now, what's the most cost-effective and cheapest way to get clean water and simplest? Iodine would be
probably iodine. Yeah, I would say iodine is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Good to know.
It's gonna taste like crap though. You can also use in a long-term situation, you can also use bleach. Liquid bleach doesn't last very long, but if you go to the store and you buy the granular chlorine or the shock, that stuff doesn't ever go bad. So you can use a small amount of shock, mix it up into your water in 10 part per million, for example. Which
you have to be careful mixing it though.
Yeah, it's a very small amount. You don't need a whole lot. You don't want it smelling like bleach, basically. But that'll do it. UV light or just sunlight also has the capability over time to disinfect. So there's lots of things you could do. And if push comes to shove, just drink your own piss.
Damn.
I'm fucking with you.
Quick tangent. We have a question from a viewer here.
Yeah.
Tactical body gear, best values. So maybe a brand you can recommend, and I know there's body armor types. Basic intro.
You're talking about like chest rigs or plate carriers, something like that.
I think that's what he means. Yeah.
Okay.
Just basic, like what a cop would wear or a sheriff's deputy.
All right. So a lot of the Chinese stuff is ridiculously cheap. You can buy a plate carrier from Condor, for example, for like $30. And they will actually last. Like I actually have one that I use periodically, but most of my plate carriers are in the $300 to $400 range, not including the armor.
Okay.
So, I basically, you buy cheap, you buy twice. So if push comes to shove and you don't have any options for more advanced equipment, just go on Amazon and just buy Chinese stuff. Yep. You want gloves. Well,
I mean, for body armor, I know, for example, like when I got my first one, I picked 3A was a popular one, but there's also, in terms of soft body armor for the chest and back.
So body armor 3A is basically pistol caliber. I would do a 3+.
Okay.
A 3+ gives you rifle rating for the most common round, which is the .223 round in America. So if you want to stop someone shooting at you with the most common gun in America, then you should probably get a 3+.
And everything beneath that's pretty much just handgun, 2A, 3A, and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, and then there's a 4, but the 4 is good for like armor piercing 30-06. I'm not really concerned about that, but I do have 4. I have a set of 4 ceramics, but I don't use them because
I mean, if you need that, like who's shooting at you, dude? Like we have big problems if you need that. If you need that shit, we have really serious problems, dude.
Yeah, my goal is they're never going to see it. They're never going to see me to shoot me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we got water. We got you have to have living accommodations. So that may be an RV or some kind of trailer, or maybe you're going to have a tent or something like that. But whatever you have, that's something you should be planning for. All the hygiene stuff that the whole toilet paper nonsense that you saw with COVID, it's completely ridiculous that people are going to get toilet paper. You should have that stuff stocked up. You should have it. You should have sunscreen. If you have ladies living with you, you want to have their feminine stuff that they got to deal with. If you have babies, you want to have diapers. Soap, get yourself some soap.
Tactical soap, baby.
Tactical soap.
It's in the link in the description, man. Get your soap, bro.
There you go.
Yeah,
it has pheromones, so you'll attract all of the leftist bitches when they come to
soap right here, baby. Yeah.
Okay, so first aid supplies, you need to have the capability to handle your own medical conditions. So I recommend everyone having an IFAK, which is an individual first aid kit. But in addition to that, you should also be doing more in terms of your first aid supplies. I don't want to tell you what I have, but I literally could do surgery if I knew how to. I have the full surgical kit of shit with painkillers and numbing agents. I have a bone saw.
Wow. Holy fuck.
You need your foot amputated. I could totally do it.
Well, let's talk about this stuff. For the convention, for example, 21 convention, we do have first aid kits on hand, and we do have a paramedic who's a volunteer at the event, and he's available for us. What I do is let me know what you think about this, but on Amazon, if you go, or Walmart, there's cheap first aid kits that are like trash. They're $20, $30 for like camping. It's bullshit. But you can step up to about $100, $150, and you get some badass shit. So is there a price range for a predetermined kit you'd say guys should aim for if they go on Amazon or to Target or something, or Walmart?
If you're just going to buy a prepared kit, you're probably not going to get the greatest stuff.
Of course.
You could do some research on buying stuff individually. You might get better things. But if you spend $100 on a first aid kit, it's going to be a pretty darn good first aid kit for what most of us are even capable of doing.
Yeah.
We're not going to be doing surgery with it, but
one thing I threw into though was a quick clot. So for gunshot wounds, you could get that really cheap on Amazon. It's like $6 a pack or something.
Yeah, no, it's not very expensive. It does go bad though, so you have to make sure you rotate that through.
Yep.
And don't, if it's the powder stuff, do not get it in your eyeballs.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's gonna stuck. Yeah, dude. I'll take nothing in my eyes except water and saline.
Exactly. All right, so you need sleeping gear. You need clothing. Okay, this is all part of your bug out stuff. You should have your clothes either set aside or what you're going to bring. 10 pairs of clothing minimum, 10 pairs of underwear, maybe even 20 pairs of underwear, because your feet and your crotch get nasty. So you might want to change that out more often. Shoes is probably one of the biggest things. So don't rely on a single pair of shoes, because if they get wet and you're walking around with blisters, it's going to suck. So have a couple pairs of shoes in your kit as well. Tools and that kind of stuff, depending on the type of area where you're going to be maybe going to, you may want to pack like a toolkit where there's saws, tree saws, or shovels or that kind of thing. Communication equipment, we talked about that. There's a lot of options for communication. You can get into ham radio. I'm definitely not an expert at that. I haven't even done any research on it. There's different types of licensed radio frequencies that you can buy a license for. But for the most part, the family radio frequency spectrum, if you guys in your team have a frequency and it's not like channel 1, subcategory 1, right? Like use one of the other random ones, the chance of somebody finding it's going to be pretty tough unless they have a scanner. So again, we're not talking about any kind of major communication or classified type of communication over these frequencies. Okay, power. You're going to need electricity. So you need to have a battery plan. Think of the type of equipment that you have and what type of batteries they take, and you need to have a way of having rechargeable batteries. So those what are they called? Alkali batteries. Those things are shit. They get a little bit of moisture, they'll start to ooze out their stuff, and they'll fuck up your. Am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, they'll fuck up your gear, right? So I would spend the time buying lithium-ion Duracells or Energizers. You're going to get way better battery life out of them, and they don't have the same propensity to basically corrode with moisture.
They're more reliable. I didn't know that. It's good.
Way more reliable. Yeah, way more reliable.
So lithium-ion, or what was the other one?
Lithium-ion or some sort of rechargeable, which are mostly lithium-ion batteries too.
Okay.
But again, if you're going to have a recharging plan as part of your thing, where are you going to get the power to recharge that? Do you have solar energy? Do you have
solar,
that kind of stuff? So
there's a lot of cool stuff on Amazon actually that's solar charging for USB things like your phone and shit like that. And then also you can crank shit too. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so I have a crank. I have a tornado room. It's literally a metal room for tornadoes. And during the tornado event that you were discussing a few minutes ago, my dog and I went in, and as I opened up the door, I'm like, okay, I'm going to crank up this fucking weather radio. It's a pain in the ass, man. So make sure you have charged batteries, because having to crank that thing constantly so you can listen to the weather radio is not cool.
Yeah, it's backup. Yeah, it's good backup.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
question from a viewer here. Does he know some survival books to recommend?
I do. I have a whole bookshelf full of this stuff, but I didn't actually make a list. So I don't know. Do you want me to put it together and you can somehow post it somewhere?
Even just like one or two. I know we were talking about the SAS Survival Handbook before we went on the show.
The SAS Survival Handbook is written by a Brit who actually lives in America. It's pretty good, and he wrote another one called Contact, I think it's called. Okay. And that's basically how the militia, if you want to call it the militia, would basically use military tactics if need be. So I think both of those books are good. The medical book, there's a doctor.
So just to clarify, the SAS Survival Handbook and then Contact.
Yes.
2 books. Okay.
I can't remember the guy's name. He was a special forces guy from England, but he lives in Virginia, I think now, or something like that. But yeah, anyways, we'll talk about guns.
Yeah. So here's my question about guns. First of all, what's the most important first gun a guy can buy for under $700? And what type of gun is it? Is it a rifle? Is it a handgun? Is it a shotgun?
Okay.
And let's say the budget's 700, 750 or something like that, max.
No problem.
Just for the firearm.
Glock 19.
Glock 19. Handgun.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. Because Glock 19 is going to be compatible with most of the law enforcement type ammunition or magazines. So the majority of police went away from the 40 caliber and they went to a 9mm pistol. So you'll be able to literally insert their magazines into your weapon and it'll function. It's small enough that it's concealable, but it's big enough that it's not a micro gun. Yep. So if you had to buy one, I'm going to go with the Glock 19. And you get it for about $550.
Dude, I paid $499 for mine, brand new, Gen 4.
Well, now they're more.
Yeah, of course. Right now they're hard to get.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it. My Glock 19 is my third handgun. I got it a couple years ago, and I fucking love it. It never jams. It shoots every time. It's awesome, and it's accurate. I've been hitting stuff. I
thought yours shot a little low. Or was that you?
That'd be me shooting it. I don't think that's the weapon. Yeah.
All right. So,
but the old guns I had though, the other ones were I paid. They were $300 a pop. Shit like that. And they were trash. I mean, it was so much better to spend $500 clean and get an awesome gun that just works.
And I'm not saying that Glock is the best gun. You know, I have a ton of different pistols. You know, I have CZs. I have basically, if it's a firearm, I probably own it. But for a shit hits the fan scenario, Glocks are tried and tested. They're very reliable. You could drop them in the mud, and again, this has been tested all over the internet. You can look at this stuff. They function really well. And the main reason is there's the interchangeability of parts and ammunition and magazines that you'll run across the spectrum.
Well, the ammo is cheap too. You're saying because it's 9mm.
9mm ammo is probably one of the cheaper pistol rounds for sure.
Yeah. Which is good. Why?
Why is it cheap? So you could buy 2 boxes and be okay.
Well, no, I mean, why? You know, it's cheap and okay, but what I'm getting at is like, one of the benefits of have cheap ammo. For example,
you can buy more and you can practice with it.
You could practice, yeah.
Right.
Stock up too. It's easy to stock up.
I know a guy who basically doesn't shoot anything other than 45, and 45 is great. But I'll tell you the situation: 45 is almost a half-inch round flying under the speed of sound. So when it hits hard because it's big. But you take the same, you know, force equals mass times acceleration. That's the formula for this. Yeah. And you take a 9mm round flying, you know, almost twice as fast. Although it's a smaller projectile, it creates a tremendous amount of force. So most law enforcement agencies, with the new ballistics of 9mm rounds, they've come a long way. And I would stick conversion from 9mm to bullpup.
I don't know what that means. What's bullpup?
Well, bullpup would be a rifle that has the action behind the trigger. What type of bullpup are we talking about?
He'll let us know here in a second. He's listening. Right. There's a delay for them, so give it a second.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I would do for a pistol. Shotguns. Okay, shotguns are cool. I hate shooting shotguns, to tell you the truth. I just don't find them very fun. I own a couple, and what I would recommend for anyone is going back to what everyone else has. It's a Mossberg 500. Yep. You know, you get a Mossberg 500. The majority of people are going to have Mossberg 500s. If you have to commandeer their rifle for parts, so be it. And you know, you can tactical it out all you want, you know, because it's such a popular firearm. You can basically buy all the tricks and stuff for it. Pretty cool.
Yeah. They're cheap too, man. I got mine brand new for $299.
Yeah, they're cheap. They're cheap. Yeah. But here's the deal. I wouldn't use a shotgun in real life. You know, shotgun maybe for bird hunting when shit hits a fan. I need to kill
It's a good backup for home defense, right?
Yeah, I don't use it.
Yeah. Well, you also have, like, how many weapons do you have? If you want me asking?
I have one gun.
100 guns, more like it. Yeah. I have several weapons. You have also several weapons. Several X with the 2 on the end of it.
I don't know about that, but okay, going to rifles, because I think the rifle is going to be your primary self-defense weapon in a survival scenario. Okay. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with me. If you have the capability of getting an AR-15, get an AR-15.
Yeah, and they're cheap too. The Mika pre-built from $500, you know, PSA stuff like that.
Palmetto State, you can get them for $550 ish. I actually have a couple Palmetto, or I know a guy who has a couple Palmetto State rifles, and they're really reliable. You know, they make good stuff. But that's not the only brand, you know. And again, buy cheap, buy twice. So if you have the capability of spending more, then get a nicer rifle. Get something that has you know, something that maybe has been used in war, like, you know, Daniel Defense is my particular brand that I use allegedly for most of my rifles, because that's the brand that the Special Forces guys used.
Now, why are you recommending an AR-15 over, say, an AK-47 or an AK-74?
Okay, AK-74, take it off the table right off the bat. It's a weird round. You're never going to find that when shit hits the fan. You can't even find it right now in a gun store. So take that off the plate. The AK-47 is an excellent round. It has good ballistics. It doesn't have the greatest accuracy, but there's enough people in America that you may be able to find some support for it. But let me tell you how many AR-15s there are. Yeah, there's a lot more. All right. So if you're trying to find the ability to use ammunition, to load up magazines and share amongst your team, the AR-15 is the way to go. And the ballistics on the 223 or the 5.56 round are devastating. Like, although it's only a 22 caliber round, its velocity is, when that thing hits a human target, it's a devastating round. The wound channel is insane.
And the AR-15 is very similar to what the military uses, right? An M16.
Yeah, it's a civilian version. It's the same round. Obviously, it doesn't have select fire, so you're not going to be doing any full auto, which honestly, full auto is stupid anyways for the most part.
Let's clarify that, because a lot of people don't know a lot about guns. They think full auto is awesome and it's fun, but that's not the case in real life, right?
Yeah. if you ever watched a war movie, they don't use full auto unless they are using suppressive cover.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had a bunch of guys who were shooting at you and you needed to stop them from shooting, you switch it over to full auto and you return fire. And the sheer number of rounds coming towards them is going to make them duck.
Yeah.
All right. You're not going to hit anything. Semi-auto, aimed shots. That's the way to go. Accuracy is everything. 5.56 round or the 2.23 round, which is basically the same thing, slight differences. That is a very accurate round. 600 yards for sure. Anything under 600 yards, you're solid. I have some 77 grain precision 5.56 rounds that I was doing headshots at 850 yards.
Damn, that's savage, dude. Savage.
So yeah,
Let's pause here. Let's pause here and blow up some other gun myths real quick for home defense, and even, I mean, this is good stuff though. A lot of guys don't know this stuff. They think full auto is awesome and that would be the best way to go. And even if you could, it's not. Technically, you can, right, with an NFA license and all that tax stamp bullshit, but it's pretty rare people do that. So that's a good myth to blow up. What are some other, top 2 or 3 myths about firearms, especially for newbies, that they need to learn before buying one and then starting to train and learning how to use them and take care of them? Some other basic myths.
There's too many YouTube guys out there that are all tactical. And I think before you become tactical and you gear up with your Condor and your tactical gloves and your red dot sights, you need to learn the fundamentals, how to handle your weapon, how to break your weapon down and clean it. But which, by the way, you should also have cleaning equipment for you. If you're gonna have a gun, you better be able to maintain it.
And you like on my rem oil, so there you go.
Exactly, but you need to have more than rem oil. You're gonna need some solvents and that kind of stuff.
I just bought some recently, so I'm getting there.
So when you're talking about the rifles, you don't need to be cool to be effective. Buddy with the pink shirt, he had an old school A2 AR-15, probably from the early 90s. That thing was freaking awesome, man. Like, he had a carry handle on it and everything, but it did what he had to do.
He got it in college back as when he got it in law school.
Exactly. He didn't have like a $600 EOTech on it. He just had literally just iron sights, and it did exactly what he had to do, right? It was a deterrent. So before you become cool, learn how to use it. Get yourself some good training. There's tons of people out there that can teach fundamentals, and as you progress up, there's less good trainers, but as you progress up through your skill set, you can become amazing.
Would you recommend guys try to find local just intro classes to using a firearm? I know they have those pistol classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, shootingclasses.com is a new website that is kind of becoming a congregation of firearms trainers around the country where they advertise their stuff. So it's a single spot. It's actually a Florida-based company, believe it or not, from the Space Coast. The guy, I think he was a Marine, ex-Marine.
And that's shootingclasses.com.
Shootingclasses.com, yeah. Good stuff.
Sweet. Good.
Okay, now going back to handguns. So with your rifle, don't be all cool. Here's a couple things you do need. You need to have at least 4 magazines. All right. So it comes with 1, buy 3 more. And then, by the way, I prefer poly, but steel ones are just fine. They work the same. And then you need to have a sling. All right. So you need a way of being able to go hands off the rifle. So you need to put a sling on it. I don't want to get into what type of sling. Do your own research, but get a 2-point sling.
Got it.
All right. From a pistol perspective, where are you going to put it? What kind of holster are you going to have? What kind of belt do you have? Too many of these douchebags that you see on the streets are carrying it in their waistband.
Yeah.
All right. That's not an effective way of carrying a pistol. You need to have it in a secured holster, something that is not going to shoot yourself in the ass or the leg or the dick. Even worse possibility. So I don't even like using leather holsters for that purpose.
Because they get, over time, they get loose and stuff, right?
They get loose. The area of the trigger kind of gets indented where it could, after reinserting it could actually activate the trigger and blow your dick off. So I go Kydex 100%.
Would leather be even worse in Florida or high humidity areas?
Yeah,
better?
Absolutely. It's same reason, man. It's hot and humid. That leather is going to become supple and it's going to move and shift. So go with something hard. Go with something plastic like Kydex.
I think we already answered this question. He's asking best tactical seminars, camp schools, the shootingclasses.com.
Shootingclasses.com is a good place to go, depending on what part of the country you're in. If you're in Florida, I know a good dude that does this stuff.
He's a speaker at the convention, man.
Speaker at the convention, yeah.
Check out Deepwood. What is it? Tacticalwarriors.com.
Full Spectrum Warrior.
Full Spectrum Warrior.
FullSpectrumWarriors US, I think is the webpage.
Yeah,
Or just
Google,
go on Instagram, Full Spectrum Warrior, Rich Grant.
Yeah. Or just go to Google and type Deep Woods, USA, Florida. That ought to pull it up too, right?
And again, I don't want you guys going doing all these crazy ass classes unless you know the fundamentals. If you can't hit the broadside of a barn, then don't take these classes. These are moving and shooting. These are shooting from unorthodox positions. You need a light? Yes, absolutely. So any gun that I use for fighting has a weapon mounted light on it, whether that's pistol or whether that is for a rifle. They all have a light, 100%. Now I have one rifle that is geared towards night, and I use that with my nods. So that one.
What do you think about tritium night sights on weapons?
Yeah, tritium night sights are good, but if you can't identify the target, you shouldn't be eyeing the target with your sights.
Got it.
Right. So you need to be able to identify the target acquisition, which is key.
The night sights would be for what, a low light situation rather than no light in your house?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, and then they also help with lining up your sight picture. So, again, any firearm that I use to fight with has night sights and has a weapon mounted light.
Got it.
Yeah. I have lots of other guns that are just for fun, right? Plinking and stuff like that. I don't go all out on them, but if I'm going to fight with it, my concealed carry gun, my Glock 19 that I use for shit's a fan, those are all have lights on them. So
here's a question: if a guy buys a rifle from AR-15 from Palmetto State Armory for $499, $500,
yep,
he'll need to spend at least another $400 or $500 on magazines, ammo, a sling, and a light.
Sure,
is that about right? So then, if they really want to, even if they get a $500 weapon that's put together, comes perfectly intact or complete, they still need another $500 at minimum. Maybe.
And you probably need to put iron sights on it too. Most of them don't come with iron sights. So if it comes with the front sight, you may need to put a rear sight on it. So yeah, if you budget $700 for an AR, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that was the price pre-COVID. Now I'm sure it's going to be hard to find.
Yep.
All right. So optional firearms. If you don't have the capability to get an AR-15 because you're in one of those socialist states, or Canada. Actually, Canada can have an AR-15. They just have to jump through a million hoops.
It's getting harder too. This is the recent shooting. They're getting nuts again on guns.
Yeah. Do a 22 long rifle. Just do a 22 rifle, like a Ruger 10-22 or something like that. It's a semi-auto. The 22 round, although it may not be devastating when it hits center mass, you're going to get out of the fight, right? So you can carry 2,000 rounds of 22 ammunition like nothing, right? So if you really have no other options, this is actually a pretty good firearm for just all purposes. You can, like I said, keep 1,000 rounds.
Yeah, it's super cheap too, right? 22 ammo. It's even cheaper than 9.
You were talking like a penny a round.
Damn, I need to get one next.
Yeah, 9mm is kicking around 25 cents a round now, I think.
What would you need to spend? What is that little that's 22? What would that cost? A decent one.
A Ruger 10-22? Or like a Smith & Wesson M&P 15-22, like one of those rifles are pretty common. $250.
Wow, that's cheap. Damn. And this will go the distance too. What kind of distance do you get in this weapon?
100 yards, pretty accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to reach out 1,000 yards with it, but I'm not making headshots at 850. But
it's a cheap weapon though with a lot of ammo you can get for cheap. That's interesting.
That's right. And if you ever get shot in the knee with a 22, you're out of the fight.
Yeah.
So when the shit hits a fan scenario, if you don't have any other options, again, I think it's a great option.
Yeah, it's good.
And they're not banned in any state of this country. So anyone could go there and get one of them. You may not have a flash hider on it or adjustable stock, but a wooden stock Ruger 10-22 or something like that. They're very effective, reliable.
This guy's asking increasingly good questions. So there's another one.
Yeah, we converted to a 2KR. Yeah, you could. But why would you? So the only thing that's regulated on an AR-15 is the lower, right? So you can, and 99% of them are mil spec, so they're all basically built to this exact same dimensions. So you can go ahead and take the barrel out, put a new handguard on, put a new upper receiver, charging handles. You can do whatever you want with it, and that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people will buy a cheap AR and realize, oh, I don't like this handguard. I'm gonna spend $350 on a free float handguard, or I'm gonna put this different badass stock on it. And by the time you're done, you spent $2,200 on it when you could have bought a Daniel Defense for $1,500 and it'd been better.
Sweet. Yeah, it's been a fun show, man. We've been going for over 90 minutes now. Time flies. Holy fuck. 95 minutes now. Yeah. Do we have any kind of closing thoughts for the guys? Ways to get started, what to look out for, how to not get scammed, stupid bullshit or, frivolous stuff?
Actually, that's a good point. A lot of the prepper type people that are selling stuff online, they charge a lot because it's a prepper thing. So, don't get scammed into spending more than you need to. Do your research. Food over guns. I know we spent a lot of time on guns because that's the cool thing to talk about. But get your food, get your water situation ready, and then more than gear, it really is the plan. It's your plan and your mindset during an emergency that's going to make you survive or not.
Yeah, you are the weapon. You are the tool, right? To win.
Absolutely, yeah. So don't rely on all your preps and your gear and your fancy ass 511 pants to keep you alive when shit.
You gotta rely on yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just like we talk about in the show, man, all the time. There you go, self responsibility.
Yep.
Here's a quick question to round out too. What is now I'm guessing this answer is rice, but what is the cheapest food you can stock up on just to have around? Is it rice?
Yeah, rice and beans.
Rice and beans long term. Rice will last years too, right? Even if it expires.
Yeah, sometimes they get those little bugs, but you just boil them and eat them.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Well, you're supposed to eat the bugs anyway, right? For the New World Order. So there you go.
That's right.
Eat the bugs, bro. They come with the rice.
The Rothschilds. That's their plan for us.
Rice and beans. Yeah, easy enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, dude. Rice is cheap, man. You get fucking 10-pound, 20-pound bag for like nothing. So.
Yeah, if you go to an Asian store, I bet you get it for even less.
Okay, good. Oh, there you go. Yeah, little hacks, man. Go to the Asian store.
Yeah.
Here's final question too.
I like
what do you think about factory ammunition for your weapon, whether it's a handgun or rifle, versus reloaded ammunition? It's even cheaper. Get it at gun shows, shit like that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so if your life is dependent on it, don't use reloads. Reloads is for fucking around with at the range.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't even use reloads when I shoot most of the time, because I usually shoot suppressed with my rifles, and I don't trust that stuff in my $2,000 suppressor tearing it up. So I usually shoot factory ammo. I know a lot of people reload their own. If you reload your own, cool, then you can trust it. But buying reloads, I don't know. If you're just screwing around, I think it can't hurt. But
okay.
If your life's dependent on it, you're gonna buy some ammo, buy some good stuff.
Last fire round question here.
All right.
What is the most important thing? Now, my guess is trigger control. Literally smooth trigger action and not jumping and shit with a firearm. But what is the most important thing, in your opinion, that people need to learn about when they start learning how to shoot firearms? Any firearm. But outside of safety, I think should be an obvious one. Not killing people on accident and yourself. But outside of safety, which is super important.
Yeah, muzzle. I would say muzzle awareness is probably the first. So knowing where your muzzle is at all times.
Okay.
And then if the second in terms of marksmanship and accuracy is probably grip.
Okay.
Grip and trigger control are kind of go hand in hand, but grip's really important. Most people don't know how to handle or how to actually hold the gun, which means they can't deal with the recoil. So maybe they get one shot, but after that, it's a shit show.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. It's been a good show. I appreciate your time. The guys learned a lot. Guys get pretty engaged on this. So I appreciate that, guys. T-Dawg, thanks for your time. Maybe we'll have you on the show in the future. Maybe see you at 21 in the future. Have you out.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yep. Guys, make sure you get this the PDF. I don't have that screen anymore, but you can get that PDF we were shown earlier in the show. You can go to 21studios.com. That's a gift from T-Dawg here, and that's going to go out an email in a couple days. So sign up for the newsletter right now. 21 Studios newsletter. 21 Studios is the owner, by the way, the Redman Group. Yay. 21 Studios family. And you get it there. Links in the description as well. If you don't want to type it, just go to link in the description. And final thing, 21 University flash sale, half off your first month at 21 University. Use coupon code Live Free or Die, and that'll get you half off your first month or your first year if you choose the annual option. And both still come with a free 1-month trial. So appreciate you guys' time today. T-Dawg, appreciate your time. And happy 4th to everybody. Fuck yeah. Make America great. Keep America great. And live free or die. Fuck yeah. T-Dawg, thank you, man.
My pleasure.